Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, FPL Consult here, and in today's video I'm going to share with you guys an updated Game Week 4 wildcard draft. Now I did upload an early Game Week 4 wildcard during the games that were going on in Game Week 3, and since then Erling Haaland has been on to score a hat-trick, lots of things have happened. Salah also did really well in Game Week 3, and now there are a couple of changes that I want to make to the Game Week 4 wildcard, so I'll share all of that in today's video. If you guys do enjoy it, please do drop a like and also subscribe as well if you are new around here. So the first thing I want to start off this video with is some things to consider, and the first thing obviously is, do you go with a draft that has Salah and Haaland, so both the most expensive players in FPL right now? I think there are merits to this. I did in my early wildcard draft omit Haaland and only have Salah. And since then, because he scored a hat-trick and a lot of people are now considering him as a must-have asset, I've also started to kind of change my thinking a little bit as to maybe there is consideration to be given for a Salah and Haaland draft, especially now that there are a couple of enablers that we can go for as well. So I think there is merits to this. But yet at the same time, I also understand for those of you who think there are kind of gains to be made if you go without Haaland and spread the money around to go for more premium kind of midfielders as well as defenders potentially. So I just think that how I would kind of go about making my decision as to whether I want to go for a Haaland and Salah draft or a Salah only draft, I would really take a look at what I'm compromising in terms of the other kind of peripheral positions. And when I did so, for my previous wildcard, basically the early Game Week 4 wildcard draft, which only had Salah, and I look at this new draft which I've made that has Salah and Haaland, I don't really feel like I'm compromising a lot, in which case then why not just go for both Haaland and Salah? So I think there is cause to consider for both of these kind of assets. So let me know down in the comments below, are you going for a Salah only draft or are you going for a Haaland plus Salah draft? Because I don't think we would be going for a Haaland only draft given the Liverpool fixtures moving forward are so good, and Salah is a big captaincy shout, especially in Game Week 5 when Haaland has Arsenal and Salah has Bournemouth. So I definitely think we go with Salah. It's really a question of whether you want to have Haaland or not. Let me know down in the comments below. But this draft will have Haaland. Now, the next point I want to talk about is Ollie Watkins. So a lot of us kind of felt like this would be the time, especially in preseason when we're looking at the fixtures. A lot of us felt this would be the time to go for Ollie Watkins because the Aston Villa fixtures are still very, very good. But he's not looking himself at this point in time. I feel like he's not looking good for minutes. That's the first thing. He's constantly being taken off at around the 60th minute mark for John Duran, who looks in much better form than he is. Ollie Watkins just not looking really good, and John Duran potentially taking more and more minutes of him. So I don't really like the look of Ollie Watkins right now. And he's probably someone I wouldn't go for on a Game Week 4 wildcard. And if you told me this in preseason, I would have told you that, I don't think Watkins is someone I would be omitting, but I don't think at this point we should be going for Watkins. Now, next up, there's also Nedeljkovic. So Nedeljkovic has come up as a bit of an option in Game Week 3, where people thought that because he came in for Matty Cash, that he would be the starting right back moving forward, at least for the time being, given that Cash is injured. But we did see that Nedeljkovic did not start, neither did Cash as well. They basically changed it up a little bit, and Nedeljkovic is not a kind of a regular starter, and he's not getting the minutes we foresee him getting. So he is definitely an avoid for the time being, and also despite him being at 4.0 million and having good fixtures, I just don't think it's worth it for the risk involved there. Now, the next point here is also about a 4.0 million asset, but this time it's a goalkeeper in Fabianski. So Areola came off with a bit of a back injury in Game Week 3. We don't know at this point in time how long he will be out for, but at least why not have a 4.0 million bench for the keeper who starts? And Fabianski could be getting some starts in the next few game weeks, so keep an eye out for that one. And Fabianski would definitely be in the Game Week 4 wildcard that I'm having here. Now, the last 2 points here are mainly around fixture kind of plays. So the first thing is about Brighton assets, because Brighton now has Ipswich at home in Game Week 4, and in Game Week 5 they have Nottingham Forest at home. So really good fixtures for them, and I think now is the time where a lot of us would be jumping on those Brighton assets, whether it's maybe Dunk in defense or Mitoma or Minte in midfield, or even up front João Pedro, who has been doing really well. Even against tougher opposition, whether it's Manchester United or Arsenal, he still managed to score. So I think it's looking good to hop on Brighton assets now, but I would also try to cater for a bit of rotation because after the Nottingham Forest game in game week 5, 6, 7, and 8 is a little bit tricky for them, but then after that it gets good again. So you would want Brighton assets, but you also want to cater for a bit of rotation. And then the last point here is about having one eye on the game week 6 fixture swing for Arsenal. I think it's fine to go without Arsenal players in your starting 11 now in game week 4. But you need to kind of think about how you are going to get to Arsenal players come game week 6, because I think by the time the fixture swing for them comes around is really good, a lot of people would be jumping on triple Arsenal. You need to kind of have a route to triple Arsenal by then, because I think if not, you would be missing out on quite a bit of points. And I would say start with maybe one Arsenal asset, which I have done, and I'll show you guys as well. So mainly when I'm looking at a game week 4 wildcard, these are the things I would consider. And this is the updated kind of a list. If you kind of want to take a look at a slightly more in-depth fixture kind of discussion, I did that already in the early wildcard draft, so I didn't want to kind of repeat in terms of fixtures, but really just Brighton and Arsenal, just keep a lookout for kind of these assets and when you want to jump on and off them. But if not, let's take a look at the game week 4 updated wildcard draft. So in terms of a game week 4 updated wildcard, I have gone with a team value of 100.1 million still, which is the same as the earlier draft, and the formation is a 3-5-2. So we're going to go in goal here with Emi Martinez. Now this has not changed from the earlier draft, and reason being Aston Villa are still top of the fixture ticker for the next few game weeks, and I do back them as a good defensive unit. They did not keep a clean sheet in game week 3, but moving forward when I look at the fixtures, I do back them for clean sheets. And I look at the other 4.5 million keepers as well. None of them really scream out to me as keepers that would keep clean sheets moving forward. So I'm fine to spend the extra 0.5 here. And kind of what this does is not only does it cover the Aston Villa fixtures, but it gives me other options to go for in defense, because then I wouldn't go for Konza anymore. I don't really want to double up on the Aston Villa defense because I want to keep the door open for Ollie Watkins if he kind of picks up in form. I also do have Rodgers as well, a bit of a spoiler, but basically I won't have the option to go for Konza here. But I do think like there are better 4.5 million defenders to go for than the 4.5 million keeper. So that's why I spend the extra 0.5 in Martinez here, and I go for other 4.5 defenders in Colwell and Dunk, which I'll speak about in a bit. So defenders wise, Robertson, Colwell and Dunk. For Robertson, he is here to cover the Liverpool fixtures. He is 1 million cheaper than Trent, has exactly the same fixtures of course, and in terms of attacking output, I do think like Robertson is not far off from Trent at all. In game week 2, he actually put up better numbers than Trent. In game week 3, yes, I mean Trent did put the ball in the back of the net against Manchester United, which got disallowed. But I do think like when I compare these two kind of players, Robertson and Trent, over the first 3 game weeks, their attacking numbers really did not fare too differently. So I'm fine to take the cost saving here. And honestly, when we're going for a Salah and Haaland draft, we need to try and find areas where we can take money out of defense or out of some players in midfield, so we can channel that money to fund Salah and Haaland. And therefore, I think Robertson in place of Trent is not too big of a compromise. So I'm fine to use Robertson as a cheaper entry into that Liverpool defense. Now for Colwell and Dunk, again both at 4.5 million. Colwell has a good run of fixtures still. I know what we think about the Chelsea defense, but I look at the other teams as well and the options that they have at 4.5 million, none of them really excite me. So I'm kind of going for the Chelsea defender here to back the fixtures a little bit. I know defensively they are not the best, and there are many defenders that they have. But for the time being, Colwell does look like he's first choice in terms of a defender pairing. So I would kind of take the chance that Colwell would keep a couple of clean sheets moving forward. If he does not, or if somehow he kind of loses his minutes, maybe we can transfer him out. But for the time being at 4.5, and for the fixtures they have, I think it's alright to go for Colwell. For Dunk as well at 4.5 also, he has Ipswich at home in game week 4 and Nottingham Forest in game week 5. From game week 6 to 8 it would be trickier, so I have a defender on the bench to come in for Dunk when his fixtures get bad, and they rotate quite well. So I will describe a little bit more on that defender once we reach the bench options. But Lewis Dunk here in game week 4 is Ipswich, it's a really plump fixture, and I also expect him to keep a clean sheet in game week 5. Bullet hitters are also a thing for Lewis Dunk. He does have a lot of aerial threat, so I don't mind the fact that, that is also a potential route to point for him as well. So there we go with these three defenders as well as my keeper. Let's take a look at the midfielders. So in midfield, I have Rodgers, Salah, Eze, Minte, and Cole Palmer. So I'll speak about the most expensive asset first, and it is Mo Salah. He is a mainstay in a Game Week 4 wildcard. I don't think you take him out of your team, especially when in Game Week 5, he is the biggest captaincy shout. So he is someone that's going to stay in the draft. He's been doing so well, and in fact, matching Haaland for points in the first 3 game weeks, despite the fact that we see Haaland scoring 2 hat-tricks. Salah is very capable of getting FPL points himself as well. So Nottingham Forest at home, plum fixture for him. Game week 5, you're going to captain him instead of Haaland. So he is a mainstay. For Cole Palmer, he is quite expensive as well at 10.6. But I do think like he justifies the price because the fixtures are there for him, and I look at the way that he's playing right now, I am quite convinced that he will continue to pick up points. Whether or not Chelsea win, we have seen in the past that regardless of the result, Cole Palmer can still return, and a quality that he possesses, as well as him being on penalties, I think at 10.5 is worth it. Now, I am not really compromising a lot elsewhere in terms of going for 2 premium midfielders here in Salah and Palmer, and that is why I'm happy to do so. You could very well drop Palmer down if you so wish, or if you don't have enough budget as your team value, but if you're able to reach it, I think Palmer is a pretty good asset to have for the next few game weeks. So these are the 2 premiums I have here. For the 7 million asset, or maybe the 6.9 million asset that I have right now, it's Eberechi Eze. He's done really well against Chelsea, picking up a 10-pointer, and to be fair, in game week 1 and 2, he should have scored a lot more as well. So he's come good in game week 3, and now in game week 4, he has a perfect fixture, Leicester at home, one where he has 7.3 predicted points, which even kind of rivals the other better options for game week 4 in terms of fixture to fixture predicted points. So I look at Eze, and I think he is someone that I will have on a game week 4 wildcard. Crystal Palace are actually 3rd on the fixture ticker for the next 6 game weeks, so it's perfectly fine to keep Eze here. And in terms of his 6.9 price point, if somehow you do not wish to keep Eze long term, you can always swap to Mbeumo at 7 million. So that having that kind of bit of a price point there allows for easy rotation later on as well. And obviously he's not very expensive. 6.9 is kind of a bit of a steal for a 90-minute asset on penalties and with the fixtures they have moving forward. So I like Eze here. And I look at the other 2 enablers. Obviously, if you want to have many premiums, Salah plus Haaland, and then you have Palmer here, you also have Robertson, who is slightly more expensive in defense. You have to have some enablers. So the ones that have shown themselves as pretty decent enablers are Rodgers and Minte. Now I know what a lot of people think about Rodgers. He has not been returning in game week, in the 3 game weeks that he's played so far. It is frustrating, but again, when I look at the other 5 million options, who else do I have that is guaranteed to start and play kind of 90 minutes every other game? For sure, moving forward, that could change, but very well when that kind of turns around, you can always swap, Rodgers out. By then, you can sell some premiums as well. But for game week 4, when I look at what the kind of other options and that price point enable, I'd rather go for Rodgers here with the fixtures that they have. And still, I think, when we're looking at objectively speaking, going for a cheap player, I prefer him over someone like a Souček or someone like Adama Traore. So I'm still going to go for Rodgers here. And then in the other 5.5 million kind of region, I have Minte. Good fixtures for him. Again, similar to Dunk, Ipswich in game week 4 and Nottingham Forest in game week 5. Again, when the fixtures start to turn, that is when you may need to deal with him, because you would also up front, a bit of a spoiler, have João Pedro, in which case you would have many Brighton assets for game week, for game week 6 where they have tough fixtures. So Dunk can be rotated with the bench option defender that we have, but Minte and João Pedro may need to be transferred out. But at least for the next 2 game weeks, for game week 4 and game week 5, you're fine to just have them and then switch them around as and when, but that kind of allows you to have these other premium assets that we have spoken about here, like Salah, Palmer, Robertson, Haaland up front. So these 2 enablers, Rodgers and Minte, they are my favorite ones still, and I do think like moving forward we could see some returns. You could obviously go for other options in those enablers kind of a bracket, but be careful with the ones that you pick and kind of make sure that they are good for 90 minutes, because that's what you would need to afford this draft. Now, so moving forward, let's take a look now at the strikers. So up front, there's João Pedro and Erling Haaland. So for João Pedro, I don't think I have to justify him too much. He is one of the best performing assets in the first 3 game weeks. He got a goal against Manchester United in game week 2. He got a goal against Arsenal in game week 3. And now this is when he has the plum fixtures. You fully expect him to return as well. The only thing I would say about this Brighton triple up is that I am fine to keep João Pedro through the difficult fixtures. Dunk can be rotated with Gabriel on the bench, so Minte is really the only one that maybe come game week 6 when the fixtures start to get slightly bad, that you can replace Minte with someone else. By then you can also do a bit of a change to potentially upgrade Minte in a bit of a combination move. So for now, this Brighton triple up works really well, and at least for game week 4 and game week 5, you're capturing the good Brighton fixtures. Now for Haaland, he has Brentford at home. He has the captain's armband as well. At the end of the day, this is a Salah and Haaland draft. So when I look at it in a big picture view, I kind of want to analyze what am I giving up on. I think the only one in defense for me is going for Robertson instead of Trent. But again, as I've mentioned, I don't think that is too big of a compromise. And then in midfield, who are the other midfielders that I want right now? Mbeumo, potentially, but he has tough fixtures now in game week 4 and game week 5. Man City in game week 4, and then in game week 5, he has Spurs. So not good fixtures. And then when I look at maybe Semenyo, for example, some of you guys may want to go for him as an enabler. He has Chelsea at home and Liverpool away. So not great as well. And then potentially someone else at the slightly more expensive bracket like Bruno Fernandes, Southampton in game week 4. But do you really want to go for Bruno Fernandes if you're on a wild card, given how Manchester United are performing right now? If you have him, you hold. But if you're on a wild card, why would you go for him? So I think when I look at it from a big picture view, I really don't think we are missing out on too many other midfield assets as well. And then up front, you have Haaland and you have João Pedro. If you want to go for Ollie Watkins, fair enough. But again, I wouldn't go there because of his form and the minutes right now. So really, I don't think we're compromising too much when I look at this draft overall. And potentially the only area is a slightly weaker bench, which I'll speak about right now. So Fabianski, 4.0 million. He is the keeper that I would have as the bench fodder because, again, he starts for West Ham. Potentially, if Areola is out for long, he could be rotated with Martinez. And then in the other kind of positions here for outfielders on the bench, we have Gabriel from Arsenal, and then Harwood Bellis, and the last forward spot is basically a 4.5 million bench for the kind of forward spot that you won't use. So there's Gabriel here to rotate, mainly with Dunk. He's slightly more expensive at 6 million, but I think again it's worth it to have an Arsenal asset in your team already because you want to be tripled up on them by game week 6. So Gabriel already starts you off with 1, you just need to move forward to 2 more come game week 6. And bearing in mind as well, Dunk and Gabriel rotate very, very well. In game week 6 to game week 8, that is when Lewis Dunk has tougher fixtures. That is also when Gabriel has a great run. So you perfectly kind of just swap both of them. And then when Dunk's fixtures turn good from game week 9 onwards, you put him back in as well. So this works really well, and I still think I would keep this on a game week 4 wildcard. Aside from that, Harwood Bellis at 4.0 million is also a bit of a bench fodder, but he starts. And I think if you do need to call on him, he would be alright too, because I look at the Southampton fixtures. They do have a good number of home fixtures that are slightly easier. But again, I don't think that you would reach a situation where you would need to use Harwood Bellis. So overall, I think the fact that this draft can afford for a bit of rotation and also cover the major premiums that you would want, whether it's Salah, Palmer, Haaland, as well as a Liverpool defender. I look at this draft and I think this is a really good one. It tempts me a bit as well, but I still think I'm going to keep it for a Game Week 6 wildcard personally. But for those of you on a Game Week 4 wildcard, let me know what you think of this draft. What changes will you make? And are there a couple of players that you have in your draft that I'm missing out as well? I'd like to know. But if not, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please do drop a like, please do subscribe as well, and I will catch you guys in more Game Week 4 content over the international break. Bye bye.